All right, so greetings everybody. We're here today from Qigong Awareness because we had this event sponsored by the Love, Peace, Amen Foundation. Some of the representatives of that particular organization have met me over the last few years and got to see some of my work firsthand, and decided to sponsor some of these events. They sponsored 4 events last year, and 4 again this year. We have one more coming up in November, which will be streamed online. It's a 2-hour program. And then next year, we actually have the same thing on the docket for next year. So prior to the pandemic, we were traveling around the country from about 2014. I traveled everywhere from Florida over on this side, all the way to California, all the way to New York. Obviously, I mentioned Colorado earlier, so I've been in Colorado. Bunch of stuff down in Florida, Washington, D.C., like I've taught all around since 2014, all the way over to Hawaii as well. Pandemic came and that kind of slowed down our march a little bit. Back to building here locally in Wilmington, North Carolina. So anybody that is local or coming through town, just know that I'm starting to do regular Qigong classes again. So I'm out just over the border of Wilmington here in Castle Hayne at the end of college down the other side. And like past Gordon Road over that way, if you're familiar with that. Anyway, where to begin? There's a lot to share with you today. We'll just have fun with it and go along for the ride and see where it takes us, okay? So first, a little bit of welcome. So first of all, a little bit about my story in conjunction with Qigong, because Qigong is what Qigong is, but everybody has their own perspective on everything. So whatever people do, they have their own perspective on it. So I'll share with you mine, and depending on how long you stick around today, even if you're here for a couple of hours, you're going to hear a bunch of different things. We're going to go through what Qigong is, like in terms of its definition or something. I'll tell you what I think about it, what some of my teachers have shared with me, things I've been able to do with it, things that my clients have been able to do with it, etc., and share those with you. Share some physical standing techniques, some movement techniques, some stillness meditation techniques, some breathing techniques. Hopefully you'll take some of those for your own self and just put it in your own toolbox, and hopefully 1 or 2 or 3 of them, if all of them work for you, fantastic. That's not always the case, but as long as you leave today with a tool, I'll be happy, you know. So that's what we're going to do. And briefly, because my story is long enough, and if you ever want to read more about it, I couldn't bring these today to sell them to you or anything, but because we're giving everything away for free. But this is Qigong for Beginners, Your Path to Greater Health and Vitality. It's a book that I wrote a few years ago. And it has some technique in it and stuff, but really I save the techniques for the YouTube channel. So if you haven't seen the YouTube channel, check that out, because there's like 300 free videos on there. But again, we've traveled the country. My wife there, who you met outside, Tanya, she's an acupuncturist. I'm what's called a Medical Qigong Master, which is considered the father of acupuncture. So the medicine that I'm involved with is based on the same medicine as acupuncture, but it doesn't use needles and things of that nature. So Qigong is really wild and was an interesting journey for me, and I'll rattle some of it off real quick for you, then lead us into some practices. So when I was 12 years old, I'm coming up on the anniversary of my 12-year-old accident. I was on a hayride on Halloween, and I was in a forest like this, and it was a tree farm, and the guy who was driving the Jeep pulling this trailer full of kids and hay and myself and my friends, he got out with a big spooky like Jason mask and started, scaring us in the middle of the forest. So being a boy, I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, okay, have to overcome the fear of that, that just scared the crap out of me. So I gotta anyway, so we decided we would, a buddy of mine and I decided we would jump out of the trailer and we would run across the tree farm, and then we would jump back in, we'd scare everyone, and then by jumping back into the trailer on the other side of the forest. Well, we scared everybody. It just didn't go down exactly like we thought. So it was dark out there. I couldn't see anything, barely. And so we ran across the forest there, and we saw the lights of the Jeep, and got to the other side. I was with my buddy. We're both kind of getting in. So he's kind of over here. I'm like this. He kind of goes up and in. I almost half like kind of push him in. I'm trying to go up behind him, and the wheel of the trailer catches my right foot. It immediately grabs my right foot and like pulls it completely to the ground. And this is a heavy trailer with hay and a bunch of people. It's being pulled by a Jeep. There's no way I'm getting my leg back. So by the time it got to my calf and the back of my knee, I just went right down, and then it went right off my hamstring and went right over the right side of my back. And by the time it got to my lower back, I was screaming, and the next thing I know, I passed out. I had tire tracks running all the way up over my right shoulder on that. I had I was back in a Jim Morrison back in those days, so I had a Jim Morrison Doors t-shirt on, and it was a white sleeve, and the white sleeve had a tire track going over the sleeve, so it missed my neck by inches. And so amazingly, unbelievably perhaps, I actually did not break one bone. I had abrasions and scrapes and bruises, and I was trashed, but I literally didn't break anything. So over the next couple of years, my spine started hurting bad. I was playing travel team soccer, and then I had started football. And anyway, I was in terrible pain, and my spine started degenerating. They diagnosed me with scoliosis. Over the next from 15 years old to 25, those 10 years, my spine was degenerating so quickly that when I was 25, and I'm going to throw this in, by the time I'm 25, I've been practicing Qigong and things like this now for 10 years. So I wasn't a beginner at 25. 10 years I've been practicing Qigong, martial arts, meditation, Chinese medicine, all of this. But I'm kind of desperate to heal myself. And for lack of better words. And so anyway, at 25 years old, they took x-rays and they said, your spine is degenerated so badly that your spine looks like you're 85 years old. My lumbar spine, they said it looked like I got hit with a football helmet. I'm like, no, it wasn't a football helmet, it was a trailer. I remember, it ran me over right there. Anyway, my thoracic spine had a big like S-curve in it. And my cervical spine was filled with arthritis, and my vertebrae fused together, especially 3, 4, and 5. So I was a mess. And I had got into, because I got picked on in different things during that time period of my life, I got into martial arts along with the Chinese medicine. So I was doing like full contact karate and stuff, but like the average person would have just been laying home in bed. You wouldn't do anything. I was crooked like this. So they told me by the time you're 30, look, like prepare for the worst. Your spine's going to start crushing your lungs. It's going to crush your internal organs. You're not in good shape. So this is also coming out of a family of alcoholism and all kinds of other things that I'm sort of suffering through and journeying and so on. So, long story short, jump ahead. I went to school, studied psychology, got a degree in psychology from the University of Connecticut, studied became an emergency medical technician. I ended up becoming a therapist and a counselor out of school, and I started working with people on that level. But the whole time I was doing that, I was studying traditional Chinese medicine. Back in the day, not that long ago, say pre-1970s or so, acupuncture and Chinese medicine and all of this, there was no licensure for it. So you trained with a master. You trained, like Tanya is half Taiwanese. Her dad's from Taiwan. So when Tanya said that she wanted to go to acupuncture school, her dad, who's Taiwanese, Asian, said, You don't go to acupuncture school for that. I'm not paying for you to go to college. He said, you go live with a master. You go train with a master. That's how it's been done, right? And so that's how I trained. I've been doing that with masters. I have a variety of masters that I've trained with, both in martial art, medical Qigong, meditation, so on. I'll spare you the list because it's a long one. But I will say that I ended up getting, I'm a black belt in Taekwondo, black belt in Karate, black belt in Kempo Karate, kickboxing, coming up on a brown belt right now in Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Jeet Kune Do, Filipino martial arts teacher. And while I was learning all of those things, I was learning the Chinese medicine. So I was training, where I trained like, well, the Karate Kid, I joke and say he had it easy. His training was easy in comparison to what I did. But I stayed and I trained with these teachers. And when I got out of high school, I mean, I was there, 6-8 hours a day, 6-7 days a week. And I trained and I trained. And then I would go to part-time college, etc. Anyway, I ended up with a molecular cellular biology, studied that for 4 years. All of this just trying to heal myself. So, all right, let's jump to the punchline then, which is why you're all here. In the middle of all that, I finally started achieving a tipping point. The breath work is working. The healing work that I'm having on my own body. Right now, I'm considered a medical Qigong Master. I will literally do healings where I don't touch people. People who are here, who know what I do, are already nodding your head because you know exactly what that's like. I may give you a little demonstration of that later. One of the number one thing that I'm known for in business for 30 years is that type of work, along with the kind of, if you want to call it spiritual counseling, because like I'm a counselor, I'm not official counselor anymore, but like spiritual counseling, soulful counseling, very intuitive counseling. In fact, I asked somebody yesterday here in the room, she'll know who she is, did she want the cake or did she want the lake? And she said, what? What did you just say? And I said, do you want the cake or do you want the lake? Because sometimes you can only have the cake. You know how they say you can have your cake and eat it too? Sometimes you can have your cake and eat it too, but in certain instances you have to give up the cake if you want the lake. And I told her that, and she said, I'm looking for a lake house. How did you know that I'm looking for a lake house? I said, I'm picking it off of your energy field. So the energy body has all of its information in it. And when you think Qigong, I want you to think about the energy body. That's what I'm here to teach you about today. You are a physical body. 100%, it's true, you're a physical body. But there is an energy body there. And when I first experienced the kind of work that I now do for people, it was from a massage therapist. She had been working on me for some number of years. And she said to me, I want to turn you on to this other type of work that I've been learning. So she wasn't even an expert at this work. She's like, I want to turn you on to this work that I've been doing. And I was like, she's like, it's this much money or whatever. And I said, no, I'll just do the massage. And at the time, I'm a full contact karate guy. I'm all like buff and but meanwhile my spine's all crooked. Anyway, she's in there with her knee trying to release my back muscles and stuff, right? And now she wants to do this energy work. So I'm like, I don't know. And so anyway, one day she says to me, look, I'll give you a half hour of this work for free after your hour of massage. And I was like, all right. So, what I got to lose, right? So the massage finishes, she starts doing this just light touch stuff, and the next thing I know, I am literally out on the roof. I'm having a dream of being on the roof. I feel so ridiculously light, I can't even explain it other than to say what I'm saying. And when I came back to my body, it was literally like this, like I had died, and the simplest way I can explain it after many years of having sort of left, come back, left, come back, left, come back. When you slip off into your energy body, if you're not familiar with that, and you go kind of deep. I don't mean a little bit, like you're going to do some Qigong today and this is going to happen. But when you go a little bit deeper into the healing work, you actually get to this place where you'll slip off, and And if you're not used to that, when it first happens, it'll freak you out. Like, you may feel like you died. In fact, there's someone here who, we're going to send her some good energy today. She's one of our students who's been with us for some number of years. She was somewhat on the older side, approaching 70-ish, I believe. But anyway, she passed away the other day. Shout out to her. So wonderful person. And who Felicia also knew. And I was just mentioning Cheryl. You came in right at the right time. You can sit right here if you want. There may be a seat in the back. Make yourself comfortable. So I was just referring, though, to how when you get into the healing work aspect, which again, we may dabble with a little bit today. It can be a little weird at first, because if you're not familiar with your energy body, what happens when you become aware of your energy body is you can feel, especially if you're someone who really likes to try and be in control, which was me back then, because I was trying to control everything in my life. It freaks you out. Why? Because you lose control for a minute, 2 minutes. You're on the roof. You're flying around. What the hell's going on? I don't know. And so I would come back to my body, freaked out like this. And I remember when Cheryl did that for the very first time, she said, "I'm going down a very dark tunnel. I don't think I'm going to make it back." I said, "You're not going down any dark tunnel." I said, "Breathe in." I said, you've just lost control for a moment, and it's a beautiful thing." And she surrendered into that, and later was like, wow, what was that? So this idea of leaving what you think of as your body, coming back to your body, you've probably heard stories about it, people who leave their body have a near-death experience. The point is, you're more than just your body. And yes, you are a soul. We can use those words, but today I'm going to be using the word energy body. You have an energy body. I want to turn you on to it. Why also do I want to turn you on to it, aside from whatever that may be? Because when I came back from that experience, so to speak, I shook the rest of the day. I shook. My whole body shook. At the time, I had no idea what the heck that was. After many years, 40 years now, of doing traditional Chinese medicine and being an expert in that field and seeing clients on Zoom and in person and traveling around and teaching and having a certification program for Qigong instructors and medical Qigong practitioners and teaching the acupuncturists and teaching the massage therapists, and they get CEUs and all of that. Anyway, after many years of doing that, I will tell you that was a very livery condition. I had a lot of anger, and my liver, even though when I was shaking, I didn't feel like I was angry or it was anger being released, but I can tell you years later that was what was being released from my body. So that's the other thing that I want to mention here today, is that when we do start to get into the Qigong practices, even though I just described the kind of woo-woo side to it, right? Again, my background, psychology, my background, molecular cellular biology, emergency medicine practices, of emergency medical technician practices, and then the medical Qigong side. So the medical Qigong side, we're going to get into some exercises and we're going to get into some meditations. I will ongoingly be talking to you about your organ system. I'll be ongoingly talking to you about your breath. I'll be talking to you about what we know in science, what we don't know in science, and how ancient science is starting to merge, although most people don't know it because most people don't know both sciences. Because of what I was learning, studying Eastern stuff, but then also studying Western stuff, I had some big ahas. And right in the middle of those big ahas, not first of all intellectual, I was having ahas. Hey, they teach this over in yoga. They teach this over in Qigong. Wait a second, we're learning this in molecular cellular biology. Wait a second, you're telling me that this woo-woo chakra system, these energy chakras where people walk around and there's like colors on their shirt of what the chakra system looks like, you're telling me that those chakra centers sit right in the same location as the glands in the body, and you're telling me that within the glands of the body, the glands sit here, the glands sit up in the head, they sit in the throat, thyroid, parathyroid, thymus, okay? All of these different different glands that sit in our body. They sit in the same locations as the chakra system. Wow, wait a second. And you're telling me that hormones, which come out of those glands, are the most powerful cell-to-cell communicators that we know of. They're the furthest reaching, they're the longest lasting, and you're telling me that those glands sit right in the same proximity as these chakra centers? Boom. And then I went studying all this stuff, and people were like, yeah, of course. You know, my masters and my teachers were like, yeah, we've known that for 5,000 years. I'm like, well, why didn't anybody tell me? I'm just figuring it out. So during these practices of doing what I was doing, okay, and we're going to get more into that. I'm going to get into some details about that, about how mind orchestrates your endocrine system while you're practicing Qigong to start influencing your energy body, yes, but also your physical body. You're going to hear me today pointing out, and when I teach my weekend programs, typically when we travel, I would teach like a 2-day program. It's like 16 hours. By the time I get done, it's an 18, 20-hour weekend where I'm teaching and sharing with students and so on. And I get into all these details. But one of the things that I will talk about a lot, and I guarantee you I'll do it today, I always talk about people's saliva. People are like, why are you talking about saliva? What's the big deal? What's the big deal with a swallow? If you came to see me for a treatment and you said, I have X, Y, and Z going on, one of the very first things I would do is I would start doing some work with, and again, maybe I'll show you this later, but I may start doing some type of energetic treatment, but I'll tell you something, I'm going to be watching you, and now you know, because sometimes I won't tell you, but I'm going to be watching you. How long does it take you to swallow? How many times do you swallow? How many times don't you swallow? And I can tell you that if you have resistance in your body, and when I say resistance in your body, I'm talking resistance in the flow of blood. I'm talking about resistance in the flow of the endocrine system because stress has caused problems in the body, hormone dump that is not good for you, okay? And the residuals of that your body can't keep up with. That's, just make it real simple like that, okay? Your body can't keep up with it. So you may ask, well, David, are there ways we can clean that up? Absolutely, 100%. That's what we're going to do. We're going to actually change it with like normal mechanisms of breathing. Meditation is not exactly everyday normal, but it can become everyday normal. And meditation, so many studies coming out these days because more and more people, including the Dalai Lama, are going to major colleges like Harvard and they're studying what happens when somebody focuses on compassion for 30 minutes. It totally changes the blood chemistry. In my book, one of the things that, just a heads up, because if you get the book and you think it's one thing, some people online, it doesn't have the greatest reviews on Amazon. I'm not going to lie. And I'm okay with that. It is what it is. I'll probably one day, maybe if I have spare time, I'll change the title of the book. Probably shouldn't have been Qigong for Beginners. A lot of people come, they just want to learn the beginning of Qigong, and then they hear me talk about all this science. They hear me talking about the mind-body connection. But people who love my book, they love my book because I'm putting all of the pieces together for those of you that want to put the pieces together, because I want to empower you with the information, then give you the practice. Then what you do with it, it's 100% up to you. It's 100% up to you. You do not have, some people will come in, again, in one school, like in Taekwondo school, I'm called Kyosunim. In Chinese school, I'm called Sifu. In Japanese school, I'm called Sensei. So I don't care. I'm not attached to any of these names. I'll put on one uniform, take that off, put this on, put that. I'm just David. But my job is to give you the information, give you the practice, then you do with it whatever you want to do. It's up to you, okay? Take it and run with it. But the book weighs heavy on these ideas of the mind-body biology connection. And I'll teach you some of it later. We'll be using the mind to walk and talk ourselves out of certain things. Not just using mantra and mumbling mantra that supposedly work for somebody else over here, but even making up your own mantras or your own incantations, but understanding whatever you repeat over and over and over and over and over and over and over, even if you don't believe it, but you take 15 minutes to do it every day, it's going to influence your biology. So, having said all that, what is one of the biggest reasons then, in terms of what I'm going to give you this weekend and that I give every time I teach a program, what is one of the biggest things that I walk in here with? Practice. Yes, I have some information, sharing it with you, going to continue to share it with you. I'm not somebody who's going to sit up here and put on the robes and pretend I'm enlightened or I've arrived or whatever the thing is, or study one martial art, I could have stayed in one martial art, took my black belt and then just walk around the room like I'm a badass and everybody would bow to me and like, you know, no, I take that belt off, I go over here and I'm a white belt again and everybody in that school's kicking my butt. That's the kind of person I am. I always go back beginner's mind. I'm always going to go back and train as a beginner. I look at myself as a beginner. Yes, I have a certain degree of mastery, but so one of the things I bring to you is I practice. This is what I do. When I'm on the weekend, I'm practicing with you guys on my day off. When I go back to work, I'm practicing. So I want to give you a whole bunch of practices that by the end of the day you have to take with you. And that's just going to be a warm-up of what we're going to do today. And then the last piece that I'm going to throw in here for right now, and then we'll have a little break. You know, you can digest some of that because I know it can be like a little bit of a wind on you. So you'll get a sip of water, use the restroom, whatever, and then we'll move some chairs and stuff. We'll do some practices. We'll see how warm it is outside, if we're going to go out yet or not. But so what then is Qigong, and what happened in terms of my spinal healing? You already heard the big story, but the simplified version is at 25 years old, roughly, I hit a tipping point. Tipping point is not just for business, tipping point is health. You can reach a tipping point. When you have just enough good hormone running through your body, you get a tipping point. You have the health restored. We had a guy, I could use a million examples, it's just the first one that comes to my mind. We had a local guy who came to one of our weekend programs. He had a gallbladder that the doctors wanted to remove on Friday. His numbers were all over the place. They said, very bad situation. He said, is there any way I can come back and do it on Monday? And he's thinking to himself, I got this Qigong seminar. He'd been doing Qigong with me for a while. He's like, maybe I could, you know, have something happen here. And so anyway, he came to the seminar. He actually didn't even tell me about the gallbladder, kept it to himself for whatever reason. And the very beginning of the program, somewhere in the program, it was like a weekend program, I had a couple of massage tables there. And I said, would anybody like to be part of the demonstration? I'm going to do a healing on somebody, right? So he raised his hand, he came up. 2 people got on the table, he was one of them. I started doing healing work on both of them, and I looked over at him and started creating certain movements in his body. I was talking about his saliva, I was talking about his breath, everything. And then he had a shift in his breath. It's a very particular breath. It's not, you don't normally get this breath. When he got this particular breath, I immediately looked over and I said, do you see that breath? And in fact, it's on one of our online courses. I have it filmed. I even have what his doctor said about it and things about his numbers and everything. When he had the movement, I looked over and I said, that right there is a liver gallbladder release. I said, did you guys see it? I said, he literally had a liver gallbladder release. It's a very specific breath. It comes right here into the upper solar plexus. You'll rarely get it unless you're specifically working on that area of your body and trying to bring that about. And he had it. So I immediately pointed to it, da-da-da-da-da. He went back on Monday. The physician said she was astounded. She'd never seen in her career numbers like that turn around so fast. She wanted to know what he did. So anyway, so we documented it and so on and so forth. But that's an idea of a tipping point for somebody, okay? For me, the tipping point was that, right over there, brother, or you can sit there, that's totally fine. That's totally fine, whatever's comfortable. So my tipping point was I'm doing all of this work for 10 years. I told you that part, all the way up to 25. Doesn't seem like anything's happening. I mean, I feel more positive, but the spine, on some level I feel more positive. I feel somehow better, but the spine is degenerating, and every time I go to the doctors, they're like, yeah, your spine's getting worse, it's getting worse, it's getting worse. It doesn't make you feel good, right? So anyway, 25 years old, I was having a treatment done on me. I had so much energy and blood and everything move through my body and emotion move through my body, hard to describe, except it just came. And it was intense. And I had probably 10 experiences like that in a row over several months or something. And it literally cleared the spinal disease. Probably 90% of it. I've still been dealing with 10% of it. The worst part is still in like my lumbar spine area, but where the trailer initially ran me over. But it's been pretty amazing. And you know, I'm coming up on 56 in December, and I'm like literally training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, one of the hardest martial arts I've trained, and you know, so it just kind of says something about where I came from. Well, Qigong is the secret ingredient as far as I'm concerned, and there are some actually very well-known Jiu-Jitsu players who have used these yogic and Qigong practices to keep their jiu-jitsu game going and be on a long time. In fact, there's one of the jiu-jitsu players who's known for being undefeated in like 650, something like that, full contact fights, and undefeated. 650, that's quite a bit. And one of the things that he would do is a particular type of breath that I'll share some of those breathing practices with you. And he would eat nothing but like papaya for 2 weeks before his matches. And he would conserve his sexual energy, so no sex 2 weeks before. He would go fight. These are all Chinese medicine practices as well, and yogic and Qigong practices. So anyway, I healed the spine, and I think I'll finish the run with, you'll read if you get the book, you read the book, you know, it's on Lulu, it's on Amazon, it's on, you can get an ebook or you can get a hard copy, whatever. But anyway, in the cover of the book, there's a doctor, a medical doctor that I worked with. He wrote the foreword of the book. And one day we were working with him. We're not exactly going to be going to this extreme during today's program, but this program is a little more quote-unquote extreme, a little more advanced. And we were doing work with him, and he was doing breath work and all this other kind of stuff. And he kept asking me, what is this Qigong? What is this Qi? What is this thing? What is it about? And then one day it just did what it did to me, and it ripped through, it just moved through him, and he had quite an experience, and it was amazing because he was a quiet guy, really reserved, and he's a researcher and all of this. All of a sudden he got up and he started going around the room, and he was like, did you see that? Did you feel that? It was like a river running through my body. Did you see that? Did you? And he just kept repeating himself. And I was like, oh goodness, we've lost Dr. Bill. And but anyway, but that's the way he described it, and I think it's actually a really good description because these are rivers of blood, rivers of hormone, rivers of your lymphatic system. So in short, what is Qigong? What is how does acupuncture and how does medical Qigong work? One of the short descriptions I'm going to give you is that one of the main theories behind traditional Chinese medicine, if your Qi is flowing, this is traditionally how it's said, if your Qi is flowing, which means your energy, loosely translated, your energy, or in India they would say prana, okay? Same idea, this life force. If it's moving through you, and by the way, they say it rides on the air. It's not just air that we breathe. Physicists are demonstrating this today. And you can know that it's not just air that we breathe because isn't it true that if you turned on your radio right now, you could tune in to all kinds of different frequencies? Isn't that coming through the air? Well, that says something about the air. The air's not just like empty air. There's an electromagnetic field there that you're breathing in and out of every day. So you're bringing in this prana, this ki, this chi, this electromagnetism. And when it's flowing through your body well, your blood is flowing well. Your saliva is moving well, which means your digestion is moving well. When your digestion is moving well, your liver numbers are good. Your gallbladder numbers are good. Your heart is flowing. When your blood is becoming toxic, one of the reasons your blood can become toxic is because many people walk around doing this. What's that? All day long. All day long. And then eat, and then drink, and then smoke, all day long, holding the breath, never actually. So when we get back to that later, you'll know why we're doing that, okay? You can release so many toxins if you could just exhale. And when your blood is more clean, then your lymphatic system doesn't have to work so hard. So let's talk about that ugly word, cancer. You know, that cancer word, the ugly word. That is a touchy subject. But we're going to teach you how to heal yourself so that you don't get it in the first place. And then even if you have it, hopefully you can do something about it, you know, along the way as well. And we've had students who've done that. Maybe more stories about that later. But I just want you to have a simple understanding of this part. When your blood becomes somewhat toxic, have you seen a weekend lately, I don't know, Labor Day, whatever days we had recently, where you have a weekend where they don't come to pick up the trash on Monday like they're supposed to, and they don't come till Tuesday? What's the trash look like around your neighborhood? It's all piled up, right? That's cancer. Because the lymphatic system cannot clean up the blood fast enough to keep up with what's going on. Understand? It can't, it's done, it's tired. It's like, it's gonna take 3 more days to get the garbage out, okay? So when the blood flows, when the endocrine system flows, when the lymphatic system is flowing, when your breath, your respiratory system is flowing, when all of these systems are, that's the general philosophy behind Oriental medicine. When the system is flowing, you have health, you have vitality. When the system is blocked and it's stagnating, we need to bring some type of movement to that area of your body. So maybe for you, because in Chinese medicine, there is Chinese medicine diagnosis. So for example, somebody who has issues with their eyes, it's a liver condition. Your liver feeds, and the blood from the liver feeds directly to the eyes. So if you're wearing glasses or you have other kinds of troubles with your eyes, you can also know, I've got some difficulty going on in my liver. If you get pain right here in your right shoulder really aches, it really hurts right here in the back of your neck, you can know that you've got some stuff going on in your liver. And by the way, how many people, anybody get tense here? Everybody gets tense there. So guess what? Everybody's got some stuff going on in the liver. So I'm going to show you some exercises that we can do to open that up. So this is how we're going to put the pieces together. This gives you a little bit of a run. I know I'm a handful. I've been doing this for a long time, so there's a lot of information. I know it was a big information dump, so I apologize on the level that I do, but not totally, because I want to give it to you. What you do with it is up to you. And so we're going to take a little mini rest and get some water, use the bathroom, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do to adjust some things, and we're actually going to get into some of the physical practices. So let me think just for a moment before you guys rearrange, shift, and change, if there's anything else that I want to show you briefly. Let me show you something briefly, and then we'll come back to this. Let me show you one more thing, tell you one more thing, and then you guys can take a break. So there are what are called in Chinese medicine 3 elixir fields. They're called dantians. Just either you can watch me or just place your hands, but if you place your hands to your lower belly, where your belly button is, this is where elixir field number 1 is. Elixir field number 2 is here at the heart. Elixir field number 3 is right here at the forehead. Okay? So in the Western world, we have the gut, the heart, the brain. Does Western medicine have anything that measures an electromagnetic frequency that comes off of the heart? Anybody know what that's called? That's right. Does anybody know what what field comes off the brain? What they're reading? What do they read that with? ECG. So your average person, let's say somebody's really into Western medicine, but they're not into Chinese medicine, that doctor or something might say, oh, you're into that woo-woo stuff. You know, there's some field coming off of your brain, okay, yeah. I'm sorry, don't you measure my brain off of an electromagnetic field? And didn't some genius create an instrument? And this is not to diss any doctors or anything. This is just to say that it's just a there's not a total understanding between East and West yet. But I want to bridge some of that gap and hopefully put the power in your hands to do some things about it. There's a field that they're able to measure from the brain. Guess what? 5,000 years been talking about it in Oriental medicine before they had equipment to measure it. What about the field coming off the heart? Been talking about it in Oriental medicine for 5,000 years. What is Western medicine now catching on to that Oriental medicine's been talking about for 5,000 years? Gut health. This area of your lower body, which you're going to hear me talk about all day long, is the lower dantian. In Japanese martial arts, we call it the hara. In regular fitness, we talk about it as the core. It's a very important area of your body. Okay? Many in Chinese medicine will say it's the epicenter of your health and vitality. Once you lose your health and vitality here, it's going to go downhill throughout the rest of the body. You're going to see in the next year, 2 years, 5 years, you're going to see gut science and gut technology and references to your gut health go through the roof. It's going to become the new thing. When that happens, I want you to remember, it's the old thing. It's actually 5,000 years old, and we don't need particular medicines and other things to change that gut health, because that gut health is connected to your mind-body emotional connection, and our gateway into the emotional aspect, mental aspect, all at the same time is going to be the energy body. And lastly, because I'm going to try and run about 50 minutes of every hour. It just makes it convenient for people at home, convenient for you. We're literally just a couple minutes away from that 50-minute mark, and so it'll just make it easier for everybody. So I'm just telling you, this last piece, you'll have a little break, 10-minute break, and then we'll go on, and we'll do that throughout the day. Dantian, Chinese word for elixir field. Let's just pretend I'm a hardcore Western science person who doesn't believe any of that nonsense. Please, you're woo-woo. What's an elixir field? What's an elixir? But as somebody who studied molecular cellular biology, I'll tell you what an elixir is. It's called a combination of hormones put together in a particular combination that is then fed to your body, fed to your bloodstream, fed to your cells, all the way down to the DNA, to reconstruct the kinds of cells that you would want it to construct, if it's a positive, life, happy hormone like serotonin, all the way down to your cellular DNA, the blueprint for life, and it changes it. And it says start making cells like this. New cells, healthy cells, vital cells. You're in control of that. You actually can be, well, you're in control of it one way or the other. You're driving at the wheel asleep, okay? Or you're like paying attention and you're driving the wheel. But either way, you have say in what's happening there. We're going to talk about that. So what is this idea of dantian? It's an elixir field. There are hormones related to that energy field that are being dumped into the body. And there are those three primary areas: lower belly, heart, and brain. First brain in the head, although some scientists and researchers are saying we should start calling the gut the first brain. Don't know if you knew that, but it's being put out there. First brain, though, is in the head. Second brain is lower dantian. It's the gut, okay? And the heart is now being studied from an electromagnetic perspective. They're actually able to measure your heart, an individual's heart, the field of energy coming off your heart from here to the moon. Say what? From here to the moon. Your heart energy from here to the moon. Think about that for a minute. Your heart energy from here to the, that's not like from here to Kansas. That's a long ways away. Elixir field is a translation. But elixir sounds a whole lot to me like taking a flask and putting two flasks together with a bunch of hormones and putting them in a beaker and swirling it around, right? Only that's happening inside your own body, okay? So that's the power that we're going to be talking about today. Hopefully going to put it into your hands and see what you can do with it, because it's great what I've done for myself and some of the other people, but it's all about helping you. What can you do with it? So if I can see, I'm right on time. If I can hand it to you and you can do it, then that is a beautiful thing. So thanks for listening and being here, and go ahead and take a 10-minute break, and we will start back up in about 10 minutes. So thank you.